one more thing before I get started. If you want to volunteer for Back to School Bash, it's not too late. The sign-up sheet's still back there. If you just want to write your name on the sign-up sheet, we all will have room for you to volunteer. We need all the volunteers we can get. So if you want to help with that, yes, please help. It's so much fun. It really is. If you volunteered last year, I think you can attest to that. It's so fun seeing the kids come. So many kids we don't even know. So many kids we don't even know. I've never seen these kids before, but it's fun to see them and see them have fun and see their parents, and they get to see what we do here, you know? So it's fun to be a part of it, so I hope you guys will do that. Okay, now let me get started. So I want to talk to you guys tonight about giving God everything that you have. And this is probably the most important thing you can do in your walk with God, is to give God everything you have. And what I mean is giving God everything that you are. Everything you have to offer, giving it to God. So, first of all, God asks us to give Him ourselves, right? He asks us to give Him our hearts, every piece of us. And the first step that I talk about all the time, the first step is deciding to follow Jesus. So, I tell you guys every single time I talk about deciding to follow Jesus that there's no point in trying anything else or doing anything else until you've decided to follow Jesus, right? I'm so thankful that you guys come here every Wednesday, and we're missing quite a bit tonight. They're still tired from the lock-in, I guess. I don't know.
I am.
Yeah. He stayed pretty late. Anyway, I love that you guys come here every week, and I love that you come to hear us play and sing and hear me get up here and do whatever, and see Pastor back there jumping in the air, just praying up here that he does not hurt himself. But I'm so grateful that you guys come here. But let me tell you that you can come here and you can sit here and you can listen all you want, and it doesn't make a bit of difference if you don't make that decision.
Amen.
Okay? Sorry to tell you that, because sitting there is a whole lot easier, right? Coming every week and seeing your friends and having a great time and just sitting and listening, that's a whole lot easier than when you have to take action. But let me tell you that when you do decide to take action, it opens up a whole world of possibilities that you never thought existed. You guys come here and you listen to, if you come here on Sundays, you get to listen to Pastor preach, and you come here on Wednesdays and you hear me talk to you, teach you. Matthew calls it preaching. And you hear us say this all the time, how important Jesus is, how important it is to follow Jesus, and how much He loves you. Yet, there are so many people that come here that never make that decision. Our first choice that we have to make is to let Jesus in. And the problem that I found that we seem to run into after that first choice is how much we actually let Him in. So it's not really the choice of letting Jesus in. That's the number one step. That's number one. We all know that. And that's so important. But I feel like, and I know, that more people let Jesus in a little bit than let Him in all the way. So I'm going to read Mark 12:30. Oh, good, because I couldn't find it fast. All right. And you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and all your strength. I want to look at this for a second. How much does it say we're supposed to love God? All of it. Every single thing we have. Our hearts, our souls, our mind, our strength. That's physical, that's spiritual, that's mental. That's all we are. And we're supposed to love Him with every single part of it. This is the hardest part. Let me tell you, this is one of the hardest parts of being a Christian. We talked about Jonah a couple weeks ago. You guys remember?
Yes.
If you were here. And how it's impossible to hide from God, right?
Yeah.
Yet, it seems like we try to hide from God every single day of our lives. Except in this sense, we hide the parts of ourselves that we think we can fix ourselves, right? We hide those parts. We say, I'll let God have this part of me when I've fixed it. Then I'll open up that part. Or we hide the parts that we're ashamed of. We hide the parts that we're afraid of. And I think that we've for so long looked at Christianity as something that we walk into and immediately we're perfect. Immediately everything is out of us that's not supposed to be in there. And we have to take time to understand that we're supposed to make the choice to follow Jesus and to let Jesus into our lives. And Jesus is the one that fixes us up and sends us on our way and walks with us. So, what happens when we keep parts of ourselves from God? Does that mean that he doesn't know those parts are there? No, we talked about that with Jonah, right? Jonah thought he could run away, and God knew where he was every single step of the way, but he still tried it. He still tried to hide. We still try to hide ourselves, but I don't think we really think that God doesn't know it's there. I think we know God knows it's there. We just think, if I don't think about it, maybe he doesn't think about it when we have our talks. You know, when I pray, if I'm not talking about it, if I don't think about it, then God surely doesn't care about it. It's so insignificant. When you give God every part of you, he can work on every part of you, in every part of you. When you give God those pieces of your heart that you're keeping away, guess what? He can use those pieces. How many movies have they made of, you know, what would happen if humans could use their entire brain capacity? Have you seen movies like that? I've seen so many. I feel like they try to do that all the time. Because it's a what if. We don't know. And these people that can use their whole brains, they have superpowers. They can do all kinds of crazy stuff just with their brains. So what would happen if we let God use every single part of us, every single part of our hearts? What would we accomplish if we hid nothing from God? You can't clean up your own life. Sorry to tell you, you can't clean up your own life. You can try. You can get better, for sure. 100% you can get better. You can try your hardest. But you'll always have those pieces that you just can't get rid of. You'll always have those parts that you can't get out. When you have things in your life that you're trying to hide, those are the things that will constantly trip you up on your walk. So you can give God 99% of your heart. You can be working in the church and doing everything you're supposed to be doing and following the path that God set before you, but that 1% is always going to be what trips you up. That's always going to be what holds you back. And here's the thing, this is what is so unfair. That 1% that you're keeping from God doesn't even have to be a sin. Okay? You don't have to be hiding sin in your heart for you to be hiding it from God. What I mean is, that 1% can be fear. That 1% can be worrying about what people think of you. That 1% can be being self-conscious about everything you do. That's not a sin, you know? It's not going to keep you from going to heaven, but it's going to keep you from doing a lot of the stuff God wants you to do in your life. And it's going to keep you from living your life to the full. It's going to keep you from being happy. So I want to ask you guys, does that sound like it's worth it? Is it worth it to keep that 1%, that 5%, that 10%, that 80% away from God and cause yourself to not be able to live your life the way you should live it? To cause yourself happiness, to not be happy? Is that worth it? Is it worth it to follow God with everything you have, except for that one part? Is it worth it to make your walk harder for your own self? Walking with God is going to have enough of its own obstacles, enough of its own hardships. There's going to be enough things that come in your way that you don't need to be dragging your own self down. The hardest part of all of this, I think, is being able to look at yourself and know how much and what you're keeping from God. Because I think a lot of the time we don't know. We don't know that there's that one part that we didn't give to God yet. Because a lot of us are so used to taking care of things ourselves, right? It's easier. It's easier to fix things yourself, to better yourself for yourself, right? It's just easier. You don't have to ask for help. You don't have to have faith for it. You don't have to wait for it. You can say, I'm working on myself, and it makes you feel better. So sometimes I think we don't even know. So that's something that every single day we should be looking at ourselves and saying, okay, is there any part of me that's not ready to go on this journey? Is there any part of me that I need to pray about? And that's not easy. It's not easy to look at yourself and find a real fault, right? It's not easy to look at yourself and say, I need to be better at this. Funny thing is, whether you like it or not, the parts you hide from God are often the parts that He asks you to work in. Because like we talked about, God knows what those parts are, right? He knows what you're keeping from Him. He knows what you're afraid of. And He doesn't just let you live in that fear or let you live in hiding. He's going to constantly be like, trying to pull you out of it, right? Constantly trying to help you, trying to make you let Him all the way in. So those things you think that you're never going to do, and those places you think you're never going to go, whether you think you're not good enough, whether you're afraid, that's usually what's going to be asked of you. And that's just in my experience and what I've seen in other people's lives. Never say never. Never say never. And another hard part of this would be getting down on yourself if you know you're hiding stuff. If you know you're keeping pieces of your heart for yourself and you're not letting God work in those parts. Because I would dare to say there are a lot fewer people who are letting God have every piece of them than there are people who are keeping some for themselves. So you're in pretty good company if you have those pieces that you're trying to hide. That doesn't mean, though, that you shouldn't work on it. The scary part about following God with everything is that you never know where He's going to ask you to go, right? He can ask you anything. That's the scary part. But the rewarding part is the amount of freedom that comes with allowing God to completely change your life and free you from everything that's holding you back. Freeing you from yourself. That's the point. Freeing you from other people. And here's another thing. If you find that piece of your heart that you're saying, I'm not going to give God this 1%, you have a right to change it. You shouldn't leave it. You deserve to change it. You shouldn't be ashamed to say, I'm scared. I'm scared to do this. I'm scared to step out and do whatever. I'm scared to tell people about Jesus. I read my Bible, I pray, I do everything I'm supposed to do, but I don't want people to look at me differently if I tell them about Jesus. I can almost bet that there's going to be so many opportunities for you to tell people about Jesus that eventually you're going to step out of that comfort zone and that peace is going to be given to God. And that freedom is going to be yours to have. Because you don't give anything without a reward. Okay? Whenever you tell someone about Jesus, you not only are doing your duty, you're not only giving God everything you have, but you're also telling them about the one person that can help them with every problem that they've ever had and every problem they're ever going to have. And it's not easy. It's not easy to get up here and tell you guys about Jesus sometimes. Sometimes I'm scared. Sometimes I don't know if what I'm saying is right or if you guys will understand what I'm talking about, because sometimes I speak a different language and I blame my dad for that, because if you've ever tried to tell him something to relay to someone else, it's like you get a sleep and slide, and I would know what he's talking about, but someone else would look at him like he's crazy. So, but anyway, this week I want you guys to check your heart, right? Do you guys know who John Crist is? John Crist. He's like a Christian comedian. He's so funny. He always says, check your heart. It's a joke, but in all seriousness, that's what we should be doing, right? We should be checking our hearts every single day. So this week I encourage you guys to check your hearts. See if there's any part of you that you're holding back. And if there is, I can promise you, there's some place in this church where you can be used, where you can step out. There's someone you can talk to. Maybe it's not fear, maybe it's a real burden, maybe it's a real sin. Maybe you need someone to talk to. There are people all throughout this church that would love to talk to you, that would love to help you. Because so many people have gone through so many things. And the reason is so they can help other people. So they can help you. So, last thing I'm going to say, because it's time to go. But, check your hearts. Find those parts of you that you're not ready to give up. Ask yourself why. Ask yourself what you can do to give those to God. Okay? Because I promise you,